Welcome to FO Podcasts. With me is Christopher Schell, a long-haired chap who once ran for Congress. Now he just sits in his carriage house and speaks to me. So, Christopher,
Yeah.
you died a premature death at the hustings.
I did.
And is Donald Trump going to finally die at the polls?
Well, to first of all, go back to what you said about me. I was told that you had such a sexy voice that I went and got a cold last week. So I'm hoping to somehow compete with you on this platform.
Well, Jeremy, I hope it wasn't a man who said that. I'm open-minded, but not that open-minded.
No, it wasn't. Many women. Donald Trump's not looking very good right now.
He never looked good.
He never looked well
At
in
least
his
to me.
youth, at his fighting weight.
I always saw him as a chubby fucker.
He might have been, but he certainly seems to do well with the ladies. So let's give him at least that.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is not doing well right now. I mean, take away the January 6th committee, take away the lawsuit that he just lost in New York City, or rather his company lost. And you have to face yourself with the fact that his candidates lost massively. And he's reeling from that. Then you take into account the fundraising prospects he has. You take into account Ron DeSantis, the new wunderkind of the right, or of Republicans. So Donald Trump has never been beloved by the party, but he has been very much promoted by the base. The base has loved him for a long time. So are we seeing effectively a divorce of the base from Donald Trump? Because the party itself was never particularly wedded to him.
Oh, some argue that he conducted a hostile takeover of the Republican Party. He beat one of the Bushes with more money than God in the primaries.
Well, and Bush did start off with quite a bit of money. I don't remember if it was $40 or $60 million. He was the front runner. I think
and he was ex-governor of Florida too.
He had the bona fides, yes. The money is bigger now. Ron DeSantis has had in excess of $100 million, roughly. What
Not
Trump
bad,
has now. No, it's massive, and it's a huge first mover, running start, if you will.
The land of opportunity, exactly, and free markets and democracy.
Well, but there's another thing to keep in mind, and that Florida matters more now than it used to be. Florida's become a big story. Florida is where a lot of the New York billionaires are moving. And
are they going to vote Republican or Democrat?
Well, if we look at the last election, more voted Republican. The Democrats are largely giving up, to a degree, Florida as a swing state.
I see.
So there's a lot of money there, and that brings us to
more billionaires means they want lesser taxes, which means Florida turns red.
It means there's more money that is looking to support a candidate that's probably not Trump right now.
Why not Trump? What's wrong with him?
Well, Donald Trump.
Melania still likes him.
She does, and
apparently so.
And you know what? Donald Trump is doing very well with his past lady friends, and I salute him. But it's not what's going to win you an election. He hasn't articulated a platform. Not one that
surely there is one. Make America Great Again.
Well, make America great again. And a rehash of the old platform, in addition to the vitriol and the revenge, or vengeance against his old enemies. I don't think that is what Americans are looking for. They want a
forward-looking they don't want a Godfather?
Well, depends how big the trust fund. I think, although that trust fund may be dwindling, we'll see. But I think that Donald Trump is going to have some fundraising problems. In fact, a lot of people said this is why he was going to announce early, that he saw the defection of his big donors. And over Thanksgiving weekend, we saw Steve Schwartzman say that he was going to support DeSantis. So a lot of people thought that Donald Trump announcing early was meant to cauterize this flood, this flow, this bleeding of donors.
By the way, our listeners should know that Steve Schwartzman is a billionaire, a multi-billionaire, a private equity head honcho who throws fantastically lavish parties with dancing girls as the Romans did.
CEO of Blackstone, no bunga bunga parties. I know you want to be invited, Atul. So,
Well, I want to be invited to Berlusconi's parties. They are better.
those are the
even with-
bunga bungas,
Yeah,
man.
Bunga
Yeah.
bunga.
Bunga bunga. Okay, all right. Pronunciation wrong. The whole idea I get, though.
No, I thought I was going to get invited to your Texan parties. I've been watching Charlie Wilson's War again and again. So I want to be invited to your slave auction.
No. Full disclosure. No slave auctions, no cocaine, no hookers, no whatever. We live a very staid, quiet existence over here.
So you say.
So I say, hey, look, my record's clean, buddy, and there's nothing I've ever done that I won't talk about. So
excellent.
I know you have high expectations for what I might do.
I'm very simple-minded.
You want to tell us just how simple?
Oh,
Listen to stuttering.
I have a grandmother who comes from the Chandel clan, and the Chandel clan built the Khajuraho temples, the most erotic temples in human history. So I'm a prisoner of my genes.
Did you just put your grandmother in the same sentence as erotic temples?
Yes, exactly.
All right, hey, however you roll, man.
Exactly. I can't do anything about my heritage.
I just spent 2 months in India, as you know, with you, principally with you. And I can tell you, I did not see any grandmothers at erotic temples.
Because you were in Gujarat.
I was in
Gujarat. Prohibition, and which is a land of Jains and which believes in asceticism. So you chose your poison.
I wasn't poisoned by the grandmothers in erotic temples. So, but to get back to Trump, really has an uphill battle. He has a lot of money, 100 million plus, but a lot of that he can't get to pay for his own White House run. Meanwhile, you have Ron DeSantis, who is seemingly awash in money. He has a lot of the big money donors who are going to him. He's doing very well. And Ron DeSantis replicates with less baggage the Donald Trump sort of brazen approach, and a lot of which polls well, despite what we're told about what a savage he is. When you get down to the masking and several other policies, people like it, and it is polled well. And he is seen as ascendant, whereas Trump is seen as a little bit passé by many.
So it's like the African bush, the new lion has emerged, and he will kill the old lion and take over the pride.
It could very well be, but with that said, keep in mind what you just said about Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush was thought, hey, this is going to be a cakewalk. You start way out ahead. Who knows?
Another challenger could appear.
And there are several chomping at the bit.
So all in all, you're saying that Donald Trump is going to be finished politically. It's the beginning of the end. The Trump tide will recede.
I think it's very hard for Donald Trump to come back from where he is. And honestly, the January 6th committee proved only a few things. It attempted to show what a lousy person Donald Trump is, but it also allowed Republicans and to some degree moderates to say, to buy into or believe the narrative that Trump is persecuted. If you look at the composition of that committee, the Nancy Pelosi chose all the Republicans, i.e. 2, that it was hugely overweighed in terms of Democrats, that the Democrats had the subpoena power, that they had the senior staff.
So to cut to the chase, Trump can play the victim and still come back.
He could. And Democrats have tried to resuscitate Trump only to kill him, except now they might have finally massacred the great evil of our democracy. And that's not good for Democrats.
Then Trump could go back to top-level shagging.
Trump can,
and Viagra sales will go up. So we should buy stock, Viagra stock. Trump will have nothing to do, no Twitter to tweet about. How cross he is, and no speeches.
No, he's back on Twitter. He's back on Twitter.
But he's not tweeting as much.
He's not tweeting. Well, he's got his own thing to sell.
Let's buy Viagra stock. That's the tip for all our listeners, because Trump won't have much to do soon.
I think so. Now, another thing where the plot thickens is we have to see what's going to happen in 2024. Democrats have to defend 23 seats, some of which are in swing states. Republicans only have 11 seats that they have to defend, mostly in safe seats. The other question is,
So that means
in the Senate.
Yeah, come 2 years, the Senate will flip.
Yeah, and I don't see any sense that the Democrats are particularly introspective at this moment, coming off of a surprisingly good run. We also have a prospective or potential recession. And we saw today the interest rates. The U.S. Fed raised them by a half a point. So
And markets fell.
Markets fell. So that shows you how optimistic the markets were that they were going to, that the Fed was going to sit down and
They're
say,
probably snorting too much cocaine.
Well, I hope they're having a good time, one way or the other.
Well, I mean, look. We've spoken about this a lot. I was always against quantitative easing. I thought that the modern monetary theory or the new
I was going to ask you
theory,
about this.
it was all bunkum. The fact that you could print money endlessly and it wouldn't reflect in inflation was a historical accident. I've always compared quantitative easing to, believe it or not, the Portuguese and the Spanish finding silver in the New World. And what most people forget is that it didn't lead to Portugal and Spain becoming great economic powers, but it led to inflation. It led to very high asset prices there. Yes, some fancy buildings were built, but eventually those mercantilist empires collapsed. And what people forget is a third of the silver that flowed out of the New World ended up in China. And that, because of the single whip law in 1580, led to the collapse of the Ming dynasty, because that inflation was imported all the way into China. And so when you print money a lot and it's not showing up in inflation, that could be because the labor supply expanded dramatically after 1991, because the Cold War was won, the Berlin Wall had fallen, and there was a huge influx of billions of people into the workforce. And of course, there were efficiency gains due to automation, lots of other stuff. You could make stuffs more easily, more cheaply. You could transport things in container ships. But that era of la-la world of
and peace
Goldilocks
dividends.
and peace dividends and Goldilocks economy has gone because of the supply shock on 24th February 2022, thanks to the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
So to back up just a little bit, is this the stake in the heart of modern monetary theory?
Oh, yes.
Thank God.
Yeah, they're dead. They're dead for now. I mean, like Dracula, they've been shown the cross or something.
Good.
They're back in the grave because now central bankers are raising interest rates. They have to raise interest rates. They have to get the monster of inflation under control. Inflation's over 10% in Europe. By the way, Europe doesn't have supplies of natural gas, unlike the US. The US has a hedge. Other countries are suffering more. There's a huge debt crisis all across the emerging markets, especially in Africa and Latin America. So as interest rates rise, debt repayments become more expensive. So now we are entering a very different stagflationary crisis. And with the oil price hike, that's like 1973.
So you mentioned stagflation, which is terrifying to most. Anyone who was alive 40 plus years ago remembers it was,
which
was
is not too
disastrous.
many people, apparently.
Not too many people. Sadly, I'm in the room with one of them.
Exactly.
You're not going to call me out, huh?
No. You're youthful. You have Samson-like locks, whilst I'm a balding buffoon.
I have Samson-like locks.
Blundering to my death.
I was sucking on a nipple at that time, so
exactly.
But I don't recall it. But so, do you think these stagflationary times? What do you think that portends? How long could this go on?
Well, this will go on for a while because now the genie is out of the bottle. So even if the war ends tomorrow, which it will not, you will still have higher interest rates because now the cycle of the expectations has been set off.
Right.
So strikes are occurring. The NHS nurses are on strike.
So you're talking about a wage price vicious cycle. Spiral. Yeah. So you foresee that going on potentially for a while?
I see that at least for the next 2-3 years. We have a stagflationary crisis. And China used to be the workshop of the world. But post-COVID, it is not seen as a reliable partner, economic partner. Geopolitical risk has gone up. Taiwan is another flashpoint.
Well, and to that point, we're seeing where they're talking about having 25% of iPhones made in India. But India has its own problems right now. In fact, you and I saw in recent days the Taiwan incident. Yeah. You can pronounce it better than I can.
Well, to be fair, I went there as a child, so I know that part of the world, a historic part of the world, actually.
So I doubt you saw this in your childhood. What is going on just in the last few days?
Well, yes. Remember, India was deeply traumatized after the 1962 defeat. And I have met numerous family friends. I come from a military family and relatives who, uh, till their dying day, were scarred by 1962. And 1962 was a catastrophic defeat. And India never built infrastructure in the border areas. Part of the reasoning was, well, if we build infrastructure, the Chinese are just going to use the roads and come down and take our planes. It's only recently that we've gone into a major infrastructure building spree, highways, roads right till the border posts. And the Chinese are miffed because the Chinese have followed, particularly since 2013, under Xi Jinping, a policy of salami slicing.
Yeah.
And so they take a valley where Indian troops may not be there for the winter. They take a peek here and there. They don't like direct confrontation because they can't take casualties, and their infantry isn't very good. Whenever we have bish bash bosh, we give them a hiding.
Well, if we talk about the infrastructure wars, one of the things I keep encountering in the papers is that, India could be the new manufacturing base. I know we've gone to Southeast Asia, Vietnam, and elsewhere. But if India could only get its infrastructure in place, then they
and the government is trying. There are other things the government has to get in place. It has to tame its extremely inefficient and corrupt bureaucracy, which simply does not work.
Yeah.
So that is certainly something to control. But on the whole, the government is trying, and India, on the whole, is in the mood for growth, is in the mood for jobs. So the zeitgeist has changed.
So
and to go back to that change in zeitgeist, that's why you're seeing this massive construction of highways right till the border regions. And there's an there's an appetite in India to stand up to China now. There is a new nationalism.
There's a sense of being ascendant. Now, you said earlier that India is trying, but you're saying they are doing, that they're actually building
They're doing
this.
it. And look, the most recent incursions, I've been told there were quite a few Chinese soldiers in the hundreds, and they were trying to take over Indian territory, and there was a bit of bish bash bosh, and we beat them off, literally with sticks.
Okay.
In fact, in 2020, you've read the piece. I wrote a 13,000.
That's right.
Yeah, piece.
Excellent piece. Yeah, on Fair Observer.
Yeah. With the retired chief of Indian intelligence and one of your boys, retired CIA man, whom we know, Glenn Carl, and we analyzed the whole history of the conflict. And in a way, the border is still not defined. The line of actual control is not defined. And because it is not defined, it's a gray zone. And the Chinese want to take the most aggressive claim, and they want to establish facts on the ground by establishing forward positions. And we obviously don't want that. We want to retain our land as we see it.
So the approach of China, I mean, I think some people might draw parallels to Russia. There's an article in today's Wall Street Journal where Xi said to Putin, you and I have similar personalities, apparently in 2013. So the salami slicing is an old approach.
It's an old, I would say China is a bit different in the sense at the same time, they're more powerful and more sophisticated. So they always try to avoid full frontal confrontation. But it's the same pattern that they've been using in South China Sea, building islands. The same pattern they use vis-a-vis Taiwan, vis-a-vis Japan, vis-a-vis South Korea. So they take the most forward claim, and they try all the time to have this policy of aggressive defense.
Right. And I remember when I was on Capitol Hill when they were building the islands, then militarizing them, and they kept saying, "Oh, we promise we're not doing this, we're not doing this, we're not doing this," and everyone looked the other way, and it was astonishing to me.
Yeah, and the difference now is that Indians are not willing to look the other way, and so we are committing troops. Our troops are standing up, and in fact, I've been told by intelligence sources, both in MI6 and CIA, that Xi's policy to make Chinese boys more manly was partly informed by the fact that the Chinese soldiers got such a beating in the last confrontation on 15 June 2020.
So do you see this as a frozen conflict moving forward? Do you think this is going to sort of stay status quo?
So both countries, at least the top political leadership in both countries, doesn't want all-out war. That's why you see the comments, oh, there was a flag meeting, the general schooled it off. That is true, but at the same time, Chinese soldiers get brownie points if they take more territory. So I see this as a situation which is dangerous, akin to pre-World War One, when people accidentally drifted to war. So I think it's an unstable situation, and at some point things may blow up.
And you can also argue that the Chinese don't want to get bogged down in India when they're thinking about Taiwan.
Yes.
So they're looking forward.
I don't understand the wisdom of their actions at all.
Yeah. Well, with that said, we have some people who are coming into the carriage house to join us, and we will be off. We're going to have a nice evening, and there we have it. We've got Trump, inflation, China, and India, and we will join you all very, very soon. Thank you very much.
From Atul Singh and Christopher Schell in the fancy carriage house in Washington, D.C., it is goodbye for now.
Cheers.